So that mind map of vision, goal, vision, goal, strategy really leads me into introducing Dean and Gary and the Inland Kenworth case study, because this really has become for us on the island a defining example, a defining illustration of when designing with nature meets marine value. And that's the story that you guys are going to tell. And this is a slide that I prepared last year for the Green Infrastructure Leadership Forum, where we brought together the elected officials of the island, and capturing some of the sound bites from your presentation back in September of a year ago, of how it symbolized the turning of the tide in Nanaimo in terms of expectations that the city has for the development community and the consulting community in Nanaimo, and how you challenged them to dare to be different. And I include this slide because, again, a year ago we did, the City of Nanaimo and the Regional District of Nanaimo were the co-hosts for the first of the 3 showcasing events we had. We started off in Nanaimo. 2 weeks later we were in Cowichan Valley, and then we finished up here in Courtenay with Kevin and the Regional District being the co-host here. And after we did the Nanaimo event, I just, by pure fluke, I was on the internet, and I stumbled across this reference to Inland Kenworth and an online trucking magazine, and this was the quote from the president. And in the article, it was talking about their participation in the showcasing series and kind of the good feelings that are being created by that. So again, it just underscores the fact that I think you'll elaborate on this, Dean, in terms of they paid a bit of a premium in this case, or did they? But the mileage that they've gotten from doing things differently has been reflected in their bottom line. And I think you're going to talk about Kevin, you're probably going to interject here in terms of when Dean tells a story about the common link between what we saw in Nanaimo with Inland Kenworth and the city of Courtenay and projects here with car dealerships, and then the district of North Cowichan, how it's all about individuals and individuals being champions. In this case, we focused on an individual who's representing the development community and the impact he's having in doing his projects differently. So on that note, guys, it's over to Gary and Dean. It's remote, so you don't be close.
I was just remote at home, so I might as well have it here. Yeah, he's in control. Just so you know, there's 2 different perspectives here. We work together, just Dean's the engineering side of it, and I'm the planner side of it. So there is some different things happening and sort of different expectations. And so just by way of introduction, I don't know if people have been, if you've been down the Parkway, you'll see in that Kenworth, the intersection of Northfield Parkway. This area historically was an old mining area, Divers Lake area. A lot of mining activity took place over the years. And that factors into something that's been talked about. There is this buffer, which in the previous slide that Kim showed, saw a landscape or a national tree buffer. That's something that was within our bylaws required to either retain it or replant it. So there's some options. As far as the history, one of the things as a planner, I kind of look at the site context. So the site context in my mind is there's a neighborhood context, like or historical context. That's why I mentioned mining history. And then there's the context in the sense of the wetlands here, and proximity to the highway and what have you. And I think one of the major jobs as a planner that one should be doing is looking at the site constraints, looking at the site opportunities. And that was where our discussion started with the consultants and the developers. And that was kind of one of our first discussions. We went out to the site visits. We did numerous site visits with all city staff, from the arborists to engineering staff. And we also were out there with the consultants with the arborists, engineers. So what we were able to do, I think, after a number of site visits is really analyze some of the, without going into digging and all that kind of thing, some of the real constraints, which was just basically a rock pile. No opportunity for permeability. But we did have a major asset, which was the wetland to the east. So, and plus we had the asset, or potential asset, of this green edge. But it was a little dependent on where the developer or the developer's client wanted to build this big, one-level slab building. Very hard to put on a site that has quite a bit of slope. It was gentle, but the site did slope that way. And that's sort of one of the constraints that the developer actually used in his favor by maneuvering the building around. The amount of blasting that had to be done on the site was quite minimal, and also by looking at this as an opportunity, started to formulate where on that previous slide you actually saw the building stack. Those were sort of, that was I don't know how many discussions we had, but we had the city team there, all the necessary experts sort of sitting around the table with the consultants. We did that regularly, and I think that helped in a sense that we were working in that collaborative way. But I've since learned, I know Greg quite well. I know the consultants, Castle Engineering and the landscape architect, Victoria Drakeford. They told me this kind of interesting insight that after the city meetings, they would go away feeling quite challenged. They would say, okay, the city's challenged us, how do we respond? And that seemed to be a kind of a central theme that went through all the various, all the various conversations that we had. And I've checked with them, and that was kind of interesting to say that they went away energized. And one of the things that was kind of an interesting component in their team was Greg's response was always, well, okay, let's see, can we make it work? How much is it going to cost? This project did come over budget. It was $300,000 over budget. But I think it was through the team that was able to sort of justify to the client the increased value that was going to be added, because Inland Kenworth, their head office in Richmond, has a very green philosophy, and so I think that was something that was happening in the corporate, as part of the corporate philosophy at the time. So I think there was a number of factors that were sort of happening. It just happened to be the right group of people. We didn't sort of develop this team or anything, but I think it seemed to me that when you sit down with consultants, and when we're there with our team, it seemed that was the right start. So maybe
Gary, can I just interject for a second?
Yeah.
Does any